Hi there. In this video, we are going to understand point-to-site VPN connection in Azure, which we will use to connect our laptop to Azure privately and securely. This connection helps us to connect to Azure resources via VM or various other resources in Azure with a private IP and then eliminating the requirement of public IP. Also, in the upcoming videos, we are going to use this VPN connection to connect to ClickHouse Cloud, which is a SaaS service from our local laptop privately. Let's dive in the presentation to understand what is VPN gateway and point-to-site VPN and how to set up. So Azure VPN is used to provide you a secure and private connectivity from your local laptop to Azure. So in that illustration, we have a local laptop. It could be a PC or a on-premises environment. In the on-premises environment, it uses the site-to-site connection to connect to your Azure, and in the PC or the laptop, it uses the point-to-site connection to connect to your Azure resources. So basically in Azure, we have three kind of VPNs we can use to connect. So one we have is the site-to-site VPN. Site-to-site VPN is used to connect to the on-premises like your office, which is an entire network, and point-to-site VPN is used to connect individual devices to Azure VNet using SSL, which is ideal for remote access to your resources. There is a third connection which you use, which is express route connection, and the difference between these two and express route is these two use connections use the internet to connect to resources, but they are encrypted, but the express route connection uses the dedicated connection from your on-prem or office to directly to Azure. Now the benefit it provides is the secure connectivity. Our resources like a VM, SQL and many other resources directly from our laptop or office network. The second is remote access. We can access our services all around the world. The third being scalability. The Azure VPN allows us to scale according to our traffic, and also it scales automatically. With the pay-as-you-go pricing model eliminates the need for expensive hardware. So the use cases for your business could be your hybrid cloud security. We can integrate on-premises environment and the Azure seamlessly. For disaster recovery, we can ensure quick failover between primary and Azure data centers, and also the global connectivity and the compliance. Now to set up this in Azure, first we'll create a virtual network. Then in the virtual network, we'll create the gateway subnet and then the public IP and then the gateway. For this connection from our laptop, so to make that connection in Azure, we have three options: the certificate, the radius which uses the Windows Server AD, and then the Microsoft Entra ID authentication, which we are going to use in this video. For this authentication, we'll need our Microsoft Entra tenant, and then we need to configure the options in the Azure VPN client also. So we'll see all this in the video. Now let's head over and create the Azure VPN. Also in this, if we see, we have this point to site users which connects locally from the laptop. Then we have the internet, then the Microsoft backbone network, and then there is our VNet. In our VNet, we have something called as VPN gateway, which is like the entry point for our traffic. Also, if you want to see the site to site, we have the point to site users, then we have our office directly connected to the Azure. So now in the portal, let's go to VNet. In the virtual network, I'll click on create. I'll create a new resource group, Azure point to site VPN. So while we are creating this and using the Microsoft Entra ID authentication, we need to keep in mind while we are creating the VPN gateway, we should not use the basic SKU or a policy based VPN type. So instead of basic, we'll use the VPN gateway one. Now the VNet is created and I'll head over to the subnets. In the subnet, I'll click on add and then virtual network gateway. I'll not change any other subnet from here. I'll next go to and add. So the subnet is added here. Next, I'll search for virtual network gateway and then click on create. In the name I'll give point to site, and in the gateway type I'll choose the VPN. In here you will not see the option of point to site or site to site VPN and just the VPN connection. In the SKU size we'll choose the VPN gateway one, which is right after basic. In the virtual network side, I'll choose the virtual network which I just created, point to site VNet, and the subnet I've already created. So it has already chosen that one. In the public IP address, we have to create a new one. We can choose both the option as disabled. You can keep the disabled option for key vault access. Next, tag, and then review and create. So this virtual network creation can take up to 20 to 25 minutes. So I'll wait and pause the video. Alright, so after 30 minutes or so, the virtual network gateway is created. It takes quite a time to get it functional. So now the virtual network is there, and if we scroll to the point to site configuration. In point to site configuration, we'll click on configure now, and we'll head over to this documentation. Also, I'll paste the link of the document in the description, so please check out. So to make this successful connection from our local to the Azure, we'll need to give address pool of a private IP address space, and the address space which we give will give our local machines like a laptop a private IP address through which we are going to connect our Azure resources. So the address range, I'm going to copy it from here. You can specify your own set of IP address space also. Alright, and the tunnel type OpenVPN only, because the Microsoft Entra ID authentication which we are going to use only supports the OpenVPN SSL connection. So I'm going to go with OpenVPN, and then the authentication type we can use the Azure Active Directory, which is the most easier way and convenient. Basically use your Microsoft Entra ID credentials. Now to fill up those rest of the details, I'm going to go here and let's scroll below to this tenant. So in the tenant, we are going to give the ID of our Azure, the tenant ID. I'm going to copy this value and then paste here and remove this. And to get the tenant ID, we'll head over to the Microsoft Entra ID and copy the value from here. This is going to be separate for all accounts. And in the audience, I'll again head over here and copy the value and then paste. And the issuer side also, we'll copy the value and then paste, and in between we have to fill up the tenant ID. Leave the forward slash as it is. Now I'll click on save and wait for the configurations to be saved, and then I'll get a download VPN client file which will contain the configurations which are going to be picked up our Azure VPN application. So meanwhile it's getting installed, I'll go here and scroll to the bottom. Dependent upon your operating system, you need to download the VPN client. So I have macOS, I'll click on it and then scroll below, and in the prerequisites you can check your system hardwares and operating system to see if it can run successfully. I'll scroll below and I'll click on download the latest file from the store. I'll click on install. So let's open the client. So the configurations are saved, and I'll click on download VPN client, which basically has all the configurations which my client app is going to use. So if I open this file, I have a file named point-to-site VPN, and if I go into it, there is a file named Azure VPN and the Azure VPN config.xml. So this particular file contains all the configurations which is going to use by our client app, and then click on import and then go to this destination which has VPN config.xml, and you can see it has imported my all other configuration details like the connection name, the VPN server, our Microsoft authentication type which is Entra ID, and all other details. So I'll click on save and next then click on connect. So it works similarly as our how we log into our Azure. We just need to put our credentials and we'll be able to connect to the VPN. Now next allow. So it's connecting and then connected. Also you can see in the VPN IP address, the VPN client has chosen the IP address from the address space which we have given in the Azure from here, right? Alright, so now we are connected from my local laptop to my Azure account, and I can access my resources privately without having them or giving them a public IP. So how can I verify that? For that, I can just go to my Azure and I've created a virtual machine VPN test, and you can see it doesn't have any public IP address, and we are going to use the private IP address of a VM to access it privately without any need of giving it a public endpoint. So let's copy the IP and go to the terminal. In the terminal, I'm going to use SSH command to access it, and then the IP address of my VM, and then the user login name, which is VPN user. So it's prompting me the password, so that means I'm able to get to that VM successfully. So I put up my password and I'm going to click on enter. Alright, so you can see I'm able to access this VM through private IP address. Basically that means you do not require the public endpoint and the IP addresses to connect to it, and all your connections or traffic from your local laptop to your Azure resources is going to be secure. So this is all for this video, and in the next one we are going to cover how can we access our ClickHouse cloud instance which is hosted on the ClickHouse side, and we are going to connect to the ClickHouse database through our laptop privately without the need of public endpoint. Thanks everyone, and see you in the next video.